Are you looking to take the next step toward investing in commercial real estate but don't know where to go? CRE Central offers a comprehensive education and coaching platform designed to help you get started. Our online courses cover a wide range of topics, from the fundamentals to advanced strategies, ensuring you have the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in this competitive industry. As a member, you'll gain access to our exclusive online community and monthly group coaching calls, providing you with valuable networking opportunities and personalized guidance from experienced professionals. Whether you're a beginner or looking to take your career to the next level, CRE Central has the resources you need. Visit www.crecentral.com to learn more. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. Today we're going to be diving into the tech stack that you need as a commercial real estate broker. I hear this all the time because I've got my own brokers as well. Man, if I just had that one more piece of software, it would change my business. And Nate might argue against me. I'm going to call bullshit on that one. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't some incredibly valuable pieces of technology out there that will totally change the way that we are doing brokerage and business and whatnot. So one, if there's a piece of technology that you're using that we don't talk about today, I want to hear about it. Drop me a comment, shoot me a DM on Instagram, whatever. Would love to dive into it because let's check it out. And other than that, Nate, what's going on, man?
Oh, it's been a week to say the least.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I've had a tall order of different things. I mean, I have my hands in a lot of different pots. I'm doing all this Proptech stuff. We onboarded a new client last week, so that's been a ton of work. Got some stuff going on with my storage facility up in Wisconsin. We're selling the cabins in Ohio. So if anybody listening to this wants some cabins, vacation rentals in Ohio, hit me up. I'm your plug. And then I've got stuff in Washington dealing with rent control rules that I've never dealt with in the past, and not fun to say the least. So this is a good break for me.
Well, why don't you plug your Ohio cabins a little bit more? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we got 3 like standard home cabins. They're all on one property. So I think they're all 2 and 3 bed, 1 bath kind of situations. You're kind of tucked up in the Hawken Hills State Park, so a really great place to get away. Quiet, people do hunting and ATVs and that kind of stuff are out there. And then we value add on this property. So we added 2 additional A-frames kind of tucked back into the property. It's almost 12 acres of land. And so you have those 2 additional A-frames that are really ideal for like that quiet getaway. Think like the couples retreat kind of thing. There's it's basically like a single bed studio. You walk in and there's a little bit of a sleeping loft in addition to above the main bed. But I actually got to be the first guest last September. So we just put those online last October. And the property's doing really well, but we're moving on to other projects. And so it's time to let someone else have it for the long haul. That is an interesting vacation market. I would have never personally went and looked into Ohio, mostly because I'm from Pennsylvania and we just hate on everybody that borders Pennsylvania. But I was pleasantly surprised when I got a chance to go out there and stay in the cabins as the first guest when I was on a road trip last year. So yeah, I can hit up anybody with the link if they want it afterwards. But
yeah,
that
doesn't sound too bad. Yeah, I've got Nate's LinkedIn link, I guess, in the description. So reach out to Nate on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
All right, Nate, let's dive into technology because, man, it feels like in the last couple of years, it's probably, I know AI has been going on a lot longer than that, and I'm sure we'll touch on that today. But man, I feel like tech in general in commercial real estate in the last 2 years since AI has come about has completely changed. I mean, honestly, man, as a layman, it's very difficult to keep up with. So walk me through a couple of stacks that we should be using and let's talk about it.
Well, actually, maybe we start on the AI piece because there's something that I came across recently. I think a lot of people have been seeing the stuff with RealPage. right? So
Mm-hmm.
RealPage has an AI tool that was essentially learning off of rent prices in aggregate and then helping set rents for property managers. And it sounds good. And the claim is that it was a bias and this was causing rents to artificially be raised higher than they should have been. Well, here's where it gets really interesting because it's easy to say like, well, that sounds like rent or RealPage's problem. That sounds like something for them to deal with. But at the end of the day, the brokerages, management companies that are using AI tools, if you're using them to guide your decisions and making decisions based off that AI, that's the piece to understand here. That's actually your liability. So yes, RealPage might have its own jam to deal with and problem to deal with here. But to me, the real story here is now that the liability doesn't stop at the tech company. It actually can pass on to the broker, can pass on to the leasing agent, et cetera. So that's the piece I think that people need to be concerned about. That I wouldn't necessarily be following the news. Like you can follow that kind of stuff and jump on Twitter if you really want to be following news kind of stuff. But that's the piece that's very interesting to me. I'm not really sure what to do about it. I'm curious if there's any talk at all in the brokerage world of what this means for them, but how do you even safeguard yourself from liability? Because you assume the tools are telling you the truth. You assume the data analysis or the guidance is good for you and it's there for you. But if it's got bias built in it, it could be a bit of a problem.
I think it's a trust but verify situation. I mean, look, it's the same as calling on, analysts and, appraisers and hoping that they're giving you the right comps and then you're using that to make a decision, right? I mean, if they give you the wrong information and you make decisions based off of that, it still comes down to you, right? So I think it's
Totally.
just another tool in your tool chest that you got to be wary of. Hey, if this tool isn't sharp, it's not going to cut right.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's something that I'm paying a little bit of attention to, but it's mostly just of like practically what does the day-to-day practitioner need to understand about the technology so
Yeah.
that they can also infer and make good judgments based on the outputs and not purely follow the output. And I think this is really, it's probably going to lean heavier into the management space than it does into the the buy and sell space. I think you're going to be a little bit absolved from some of that risk, but inherently, the models are built off of sets of data, and it all depends on the quality of those inputs that determine the outputs. So it's something certainly I think for some people to be concerned about and to be aware of, for sure with AI moving forward. There was something else I came across new, a company called Field Materials. I don't know if you heard of them.
I haven't.
Okay, so they raised a seed round of funding. It's mostly in the construction space, so this will certainly impact, project starts, that sort of thing is their idea. So they raised, 4.6 million, not a huge round. It's a seed round, and their whole push is the idea of leveraging AI to streamline material procurement as well as contractors. I keep hearing this come up a handful of times, but I'll be honest with you. I genuinely am not attuned to that space very closely. So I don't know if you're seeing that impact any projects or if anyone else is using this. I've had a handful of guests kind of talk on this topic on my show, but I'm curious if you've heard anything about on the procurement side of getting projects started and the project management space where that's really being adopted.
You know what? It's interesting. I haven't really, we haven't talked much about supply chain and procurement really since 2020 in the height of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how big of a problem that really is, right? I mean, that's interesting to me. I mean, we just started a hotel, right? Renovation. And,
Yep.
there's aspects that like I've got doors on site today. We just started, right? But I ordered doors and windows because I knew that there was just going to be a long lead time. So to me, it's like, does that solve a problem today if the supply chain is no longer disrupted? Like, was that a black swan event that will never happen again? Or is there actually like an issue with our supply chain that a piece of technology could solve to cut the procurement time down in half, which means, then theoretically, I as an investor can
Right.
keep my money with the bank for a little bit longer instead of spent and, incurring interest rate, charges. Could be interesting, but I wonder how big that could actually be.
Well, I think some of the challenges that I've heard, or the cases that I've heard laid out, is you have, let's say you're putting a new apartment tower. Of course, you have your general contractor, and then you have your drywaller, which your drywaller then has subbed out to 4 other companies. And then now you have this problem of like material procurement for each of those contractors, and then proof work has been completed. And then how do you get payments to waterfall down to everyone who needs to get payments in order to move forward? This is where like you can get different contracts inserted, or there's different systems of record. And I think that's some of the problem they're trying to address or trying to solve with this. But I think we're probably going to continue to see that there's like this sharp divide. You're going to probably find companies who fully lean in on this and it works. And you're going to find those who just keep it's business as usual. And hey, we're just going to do what we're doing. Because there's so many people involved in the process, especially on a new start, on a new build. It's really difficult to add in a layer of tech and assume everyone else is going to adopt and to use that and jump on with that.
I wonder how different this is from Built Technologies. That's a Nashville-based group that they're worth over $1 billion now. They weren't started too long ago. I mean, they reached unicorn status quickly. It was like 2021. I want to say they probably started in 2015, give or take. But basically what they do is they manage or they help contractors manage the construction loan administration process, they do asset portfolio management. They do a lot of the payment processing and I guess management.
Did they go public?
I don't think
they raised
public
312 million, still private, so they're not public. Yeah, so that they raised quite a bit.
Yeah, they're doing well. I went to high school with a couple of those guys.
We should have them on as another as a topic at some point. But so similar to them. So I kind of think of North Spire. Have you heard of North Spire?
I don't know North Spire.
Yeah, so we've had North Spire on the show, and I kind of I start thinking of companies like that, of like, as they put it, the development command center for projects. It's not necessarily on the material procurement side or contractor procurement, but they lay it out into like 3 stages: your planning, pre-development, and construction. And even I forget, I want to say it was like one of the convention centers that was the founder's like first project as a project manager in New York City. It was like a massive renovation of one of the convention centers downtown. So he had a incredible glimpse into what was broken in a very difficult market to build. And it seems like, from what I can find on North Spire, of course, they're still a private company, but they've raised $32.5 million. And their employee count, I can look at it on LinkedIn, continues to grow. So that's obviously a good indication that there certainly obviously is adoption into technology for construction companies on new builds and construction starts. I think it's interesting to me to try and figure out what is you can do and what is this will actually impact the project. This will actually impact the bottom line. That's the part for me as a non-practitioner that is the tough one to figure out here. And I'm trying to find more practitioners to talk to tell me, hey, what's actually making a difference and what's just kind of buzz.
I can actually answer that for North Spire because we used to use them, and I was a subscriber. I guess up until January, give or take. We used them for about a year. And here's my problem with softwares in general when it comes to commercial real estate. They go, oh, these guys are dealing with big numbers, so we're going to charge big numbers. And the onboarding process wasn't great. They weren't, for us, this is my experience specifically, they didn't solve such a big problem that it was worth half the amount that we were being charged for it. Did it create convenience? Absolutely. It made things easier, but not so much easier that we couldn't use a typical project management software that costs $20 a month, right?
So what'd you go to, like Monday or like an Airtable or something like that?
No, I mean, I would have to ask my project manager. I don't even know what we use now because we just went back to kind of what we did before, which is basically keeping track of stuff in spreadsheets. I mean, I use Notion for all of my project management stuff.
Yep.
So I don't know necessarily what he's using, but like Notion, I think is like $100 a year. And we can build it out for what we need. And that's where I struggle, which is kind of exactly what you said, is like what should be done versus what could be done.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you can build it doesn't mean that you should.
You can templatize your Notion boards. Is that something that what you've built out could apply to other projects?
That's a good question.
Tailored to each project.
No, I mean we could probably actually template it out and it could apply to anything. So I mean, I would imagine. Look, I'm not the organized guy, right? Like my project manager James, he is the organized guy. He could put together like the perfect templates. Mine is just like, hey, this works for me. It's probably not going to work for anybody else. But yeah, I mean, if somebody went in there and spent the time in Notion to put together a project management tool for commercial real estate, people would easily pay $1,000 a year for that, right? It wouldn't take you that much time. If it was good. I mean, these software companies that are coming out here and they're doing enterprise sales or whatnot, and they're selling stuff for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year. That makes no sense at all, to me at least.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to press into that. So when does it make sense to pay enterprise tier costs for softwares? Because I think just part of what you're saying here is accurate, right? Price the customer, not the product, which is one of the strategies certainly used in that. But it's also, if you only have 50,000 potential customers, then you have to charge a high price, obviously, for that business model to be venture backed and to be worth it. So, but for the broker side and even potentially in the investor side, how are you evaluating some of these tools to even say like this is worth 10 grand a year, and no, this is not because it doesn't? Is it a certain functionality? Is it data? Is it what are some of those factors you're looking for?
I mean, at its core, like the way that I look at my business is every employee should bring in 3 to 5x their salary in revenue, right? Okay. And not necessarily directly, but they like having them in should allow somebody else to create 3 to 5x in revenue. When I look at softwares, I'm kind of looking at it like it might need to be 7 to 10x. So, I mean, if I'm spending 20 grand a year, if it creates me $200,000 in value every year, hell yeah, absolutely. The problem is it's not going to replace 2 employees, right? Like it's not going to fully replace that. In fact, I could probably get 3 employees to, for the same amount and get more out of those 3 employees instead of spending that money on a software. So, I know obviously having one full-time employee at $60,000 to $80,000 is a lot more expensive than 20 grand. But at the end of the day, somebody has to be investing the time and putting all of the data in and farming that piece of software.
Yeah. That's true.
That's a problem.
I do think that probably one of the pieces that frequently gets missed on any sort of, especially if it's enterprise tier, is that you need an implementer, you need an administrator in-house. And that is oftentimes, I would describe it as a hidden expense. And it's at least the cost of a part-time employee to have that done well. And that's at the very least.
Well, and so that's what I would say is the problem, right? Because the majority of development companies are fewer than 10 employees. And I would say probably fewer than 5. I mean, one of the biggest developers in Nashville, he's got an incredibly lean team. So when you're telling these people like, hey, this software is going to solve all these problems, but you basically have to hire a, half or another employee to do it. It's like, okay, well, it's not worth it.
It sounds like it just added half an employee, didn't eliminate one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It added more work. That's exactly like that's the problem I have with it. Like I really want these things to create solutions. In another industry, I think that would work unbelievably well. Maybe it works in residential construction. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's my experience. I know we've got off on a complete tangent here.
No, I think this is all related, and I got one more I'll throw in here that we got on development and build and new builds, and I think this is all kind of part of that process. And to what role as a broker you play on the side of new builds probably to some degree helps or hinders your ability to close some of those big deals. But there's a company called Jet Build. Have you heard of them or seen them?
No, I haven't.
So that, as they describe it, powering real estate developers, construction professionals with cloud-based PM solutions. They break it down. They break it down to 4 stages to kind of describe their end-to-end solution. The planning of the project, the design of the project, so helping you manage like bid management, invoicing, permit tracking, all throughout the platform. The build phase, so they have their own little construction modules, and then some accountability checks and balances within there with submittals and schedules, and then the management. The final data is compiled and stored, and then you can see and refer back to photos and status as you go throughout the build, so that there's some checks after the fact, which I'm sure for the point of payments and making sure that things was done well, or in scenarios where things have not gone well, you can reference back to that to kind of like see, okay, what was in this stage, like the contract, electrician said they did this. We have photos of the build at this phase. Really, what happened there, and they can go back and take a look at what that is.
Yeah, I like technologies like that because as you're going through the process, being able to go back and look on a specific day and see what was going behind the wall. I mean, even for future maintenance, right? It allows you to know, should we drill in this wall or not? Because so often you have no clue what's behind it, and you don't know what you're going to hit. And that's a problem.
And there is a company that specializes in that called On-Site IQ. So they do. I think I've probably brought them up before because I'm just a big fan of them. So they do 360 view camera tours throughout the entire construction process.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about them before.
Yeah, because they're going through and they're like, so basically like per the layers of your blueprint, they are cataloging photos of everything that's happening all throughout the process. And so they can take on some very large projects. And this is actually the power of AI. This is really where it comes into play, because now you can actually far better reference to go find something. Like a lot of us think about we don't really think about this, but like computer vision is so powerful. When you open your iPhone and you're telling someone a story about that old motorcycle you used to have. Maybe this is just me, right? And I can go into my iPhone, I could just type in motorcycle, and I can quickly find out of the 50,000 photos.
Yeah.
Right. That's computer vision at work. Okay, now apply that to large scale construction projects and commercial buildings. But you can do this at a far better way. You can start think about the capabilities here where you can reference a phase, or you can reference a specific trade and dig in and search. So as we get used to leveraging AI tools in like search and chat formats, we have to start learning about some of the capabilities of like what the computer vision technology enables us to do. And that's some of the potential upsides of some of these tools. I think that is really going to be opened up and unlocked in the future. And it's already here now. I mean, it's here now, and hopefully I didn't just totally inaccurately describe what On-Site IQ does. But that's a good chunk of it, of what they have the capabilities of, and where we're at already with computer vision and AI.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just start thinking about it. Okay, well, let's go back and look at, everywhere that we installed, 16 gauge electrical wiring. I mean, I know that's very specific, but if AI can start pulling that stuff up, then you'll be able to see, okay, what's the capacity of this room compared to that? I mean, that becomes a bit of a game changer there.
Yeah, yeah. I swear I don't read the entire internet to try and find all this stuff. I wanted to plug. It's not mine. I don't even know who runs this. There's a newsletter that I think is going to be relevant to the audience here. It's on Substack, so if you're like one of those like Substack email readers, it's called Last Week in Contech. And so this is a great resource where I'm checking in on like new startup foundings, different like policy and regulatory changes, and also like new infrastructure projects. And it talks about like bigger picture things, not just maybe like stuff in your city, but like larger highways and things like that. But anyway, this is a great newsletter. It can be free. You can also choose to donate to them so that they can write their articles and things like that. I should start implementing that same model now that I think about it. But this is a great newsletter.
I was going to say, this sounds like 100% something that you could aggregate too, because I mean, one, the fact that you found this too, I mean, you're like a library when it comes to commercial real estate technology, like news, firms, all that kind of stuff. You should totally do that.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know if my newsletter, I just talk about marketing in my newsletter, and then I give a few links out to like product announcements. But this is one of those good ones because this like I found so a friend of mine, he's an electrical engineer specializing in EV charging stations and commercial implementation of EV charging stations. And he was looking to make a change in his career, and I was able to find EV companies that he hadn't heard about, through this newsletter, and as well as like some of the just very interesting things that are impacting buildings and development. That I found a lot of it through here just because they really hyper focus not just on the technology side, but anything that's directly related to construction trends, new builds, new development, and even stuff outside the US, which I generally don't give a ton of time to, but I think is important because you can learn from other markets, even if they're not comparable. You can take in a lot from them of either what's possible or better ways to rethink and to practice in your own specific trade. So there's some cool things to consider there.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that seems like a pretty interesting newsletter if you're interested in construction tech news, which you should be, because it'll help keep you really on the cutting edge of the industry there.
Yeah.
Nate, thanks for walking us through everything today. This was awesome. Your LinkedIn bio is obviously going to be in the description, but give a quick plug on other things you're working on right now.
I've got my newsletter. You can check it out, and my podcast, technest.io. Easy way to get on the list, top right-hand corner of the screen. I send out marketing articles on early stage Proptech startups, but as well as other Proptech news, including products, announcements, partnerships, funding, that sort of thing. New podcasts weekly, but for the next 2 months, I have 2 podcasts weekly because I have a backlog of interviews that I've just got to get out into the open. Otherwise, I'm at Nate Smoyer on Twitter, Nate Smoyer on LinkedIn. Very easy to get a hold of. Ping me, shoot me your suggestions, or I'd love it. Shoot me all your hate. Tell me I'm wrong and don't know what I'm talking about.
That's most of Twitter anyway. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see y'all in the next one. Are you looking to take the next step toward investing in commercial real estate, but don't know where to go? CRE Central offers a comprehensive education and coaching platform designed to help you get started. Our online courses cover a wide range of topics, from the fundamentals to advanced strategies, ensuring you have the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in this competitive industry. As a member, you'll gain access to our exclusive online community and monthly group coaching calls, providing you with valuable networking opportunities and personalized guidance from experienced professionals. Whether you're a beginner or looking to take your career to the next level, CRE Central has the resources you need. Visit www.crecentral.com to learn more.